What's up? Welcome to Guys Dealings with Feelings. Uh, as always, appreciate your time. I got a real special guest with us today. Hopefully, discuss some future stuff too. But I got Jason with us today, and Jason's going to bring some professional knowledge with him. He's a licensed therapist here in Tennessee. He's been after that for a long, long time. I think it's like 16 or 17 years. He's got some personal experiences, which he's going to be cool enough to share with us some of his personal stuff. We don't go into too many details, but just his experience and what's helped and what's gotten him through some really tough shit. And really appreciative to have you here with us today, Jason.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad you're doing this, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Cool.
Jason and I share the niche, really, or niche, whatever, as far as we're focusing on men who've dealt with trauma, and that is an area that needs some attention. There's so many guys out there and suffering in silence, and some guys that they can't get mental health help or they'll lose their jobs. Like you're talking about officers or people who have guns in their jobs. We talk about people with mental health issues, and they can't do their job. So it's not just society saying that that it's their livelihoods, and so it's a needed space. So I'm appreciative that you do it as well, and I'm hoping we can get some real traction going. So anyway, today we'll focus on experiences with the 12 Steps program. Jason has lived that, and he has been successful with it. And anything that is successful, I want to try and share with you guys so that there's multiple options out there, not one size fits all, one shoe fits all, and B, there's been guys who've gone through some really tough shit and they came out the other side and things are going good. And Jason's been through some tough shit and he's come out the other side and he's doing really good. And I'm glad he's here to share with us today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I think the way I would describe it is that I'm in recovery,
Mm-hmm.
and a part of that process for me has included a 12-step process.
Right on.
I think that would be the most accurate way to say it.
And I totally get that. I've definitely got pieces to my puzzle as well. There's not one piece that makes the entire puzzle. So I completely understand that.
And there's not one way to recover, right?
No.
Yeah.
A lot of different roads can lead there. And that's what I say. I like to share anything we can tools wise.
Yeah.
Folks can put in their toolbox, man, and just try anything. I tried this and it didn't work. Well, try something else.
Something new.
Yeah, try something else. It might work.
Yeah.
And it definitely won't work if you don't try it. So,
and the same thing might work, but you have to try it 5 times.
Yeah.
Or 10 times.
Yeah. Try it, figure out what you did wrong the last time, change that, and keep attacking it. So, on that, is that kind of, did you have a couple of swings at it, or you took like a big ass nosedive and just came up from the ashes, or what did you take several swings or what?
Yeah, you mean as it relates to recovery?
Yeah, when you recover, and sobriety, and sobriety for sure, and your trauma recovery. I think they might have been very synonymous in your journey, but
I think it's hand in hand. My definition of trauma, or the way that I think about trauma, would be broad, right? And It would include, you could essentially include everybody if you understand what trauma actually means and how it works. Developmental trauma and not getting needs met. I think you would be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't fall into that category. So, and if you read somebody like Gabor Mate, who does a lot of writing and lecturing on addiction and trauma, he would essentially say you wouldn't ask why that there is an addiction. You would ask what happened, what's the trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they go hand in hand, man. So the way that I will I would have to sort of conceptualize recovery in some ways, because it's not just abstinence or not taking a drink or a drug.
Yeah,
It
sure.
is not taking a drink or a drug. But uh, for myself, the definition of recovery is a lot. I don't know, it's a lot deeper, man. It is waking up more to who I am and my heart, my soul, man, and recovering a broader connection to life and myself and other people.
Right.
That's really what recovery is. And alcohol and drugs are just symptoms that helped to mitigate the pain of separation, isolation.
Yeah, and I think so. I wholeheartedly agree, and I believe my journey is a lot like yours in that um, I alleviated symptoms like alcohol, but it was just I didn't get into the depths of it until later on in the journey, where I was able to identify. I'm identifying with spirituality and all the mental growth and the physical growth, and so yes, I get that. So, but to get it, I don't. I want to make sure we let everybody walk down the trail with you. You went through a program, and then you were able to see that was a symptom of something deeper. So how did you how did you ID that? So how does a man somebody's out there getting fucked up right now, and they want to get clean, right? Like,
man, it honestly it got to where I just couldn't go on anymore. I would say for a good year, maybe a little more, and the timeline is foggy to say the least. Right, my story is pretty gnarly, and it includes heroin and all kinds of things, man. And so I would say for the last year or two, and that my existence was mostly just not being sick, right? And always thinking I can figure a way out.
To get around,
to get out of it, to find my way out, to dig my way out. I'll do this thing tomorrow or this,
So you always saw that there was a way.
I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'll figure it out. At least I'm just reflecting on what it was like for me in the middle of it. Because it's so delusional. It's really surreal looking back at it. It's a really strange thing. But I do remember that part of it. Always thinking I can do it. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll get this job or do this thing. And so it just got to a point where I couldn't anymore. I just had this moment of clarity, man. My mom had offered an opportunity for me to go and get some help. And, but when she told me I was fine.
You didn't want to hear it when you heard it.
I was, let's just say, okay in that moment. And I don't know, something stuck, and I had a moment of clarity. So I went to a place, and not all treatment centers are the same.
They're not all created
equal. I went to a really my experience at the place that I went was profound, but for me it was time. So it was profound, and it was a 12-step oriented program.
Right. And so, thanks for sharing all that. That's really letting us in, and I appreciate that. And guys out there, you're dealing with something like you can come from where it is. There's nowhere to go, and Jason letting us know that his mom was able to step in and help, and I know that probably is in Jason's head when he's helping others. Like he like when you're going through something tough and you just have to take action. You were able to go to a profound place. You were fortunate enough to get into one of these that are good. I think that guys, if you're out there listening and you just need to take a step, you may not found the profound place the very first time. You may have to make lemonade out of some lemons that you got, but do what you can to get some changes. But I think the part that Jason's going to share with us is the depth that his journey went into gets it so much deeper than just the drugs and alcohol that you don't even think about the drugs and alcohol portion anymore because you've not healed, but you've been able to recover from the wound that the drugs and alcohol were hoping to make the pain at least ease some. I know that it always makes more pain, but in the moment when we're using some stuff, it helps. So
In the beginning, I think partially you just see the futility of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
expand on that.
There just becomes this deep recognition that there's no way out. You have to deal with it.
You're talking about at the end of
Whatever.
the drug use, at the beginning of the recovery.
Yes.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
That
Okay.
you just have to deal with it. There's no way out. That's the sort of the first, I would say, revelation.
Did you have a good why? Like I know some people hit rock bottom and they're just like, fuck it. You had some reason in there. I know you said you kept in your eyes, in your vision, you had like, man, I can get out of this when I want to. I'm just not doing it today. I can do it. And then when that window closed and you're like, fuck, man, I can't do that today, tomorrow, next week. I can't do it. I cannot do this. What was your why on that? Was it your mom knowing that people loved you?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, love.
Love, yeah. Love's some powerful stuff, man.
It is the thing.
Yeah. I testify that's what really got me through that early part of Joel dying was all the love I was surrounded with, and a lot of love helped push me through. And even people who don't think they have love, there's people that's just because you're thinking negative, and there are people who care, and there's people that you're going to affect moving down the road. I know, Jason getting to where he is, he's really affecting people on a daily basis, and we can really change things. So
And I think you could. I didn't mean to step on your toes,
Sure.
but I think you could talk to people on a variety of levels too. There, man. Like, you could be a person that just really knows you. I want to say you drink too much, but it could be really a multitude of things that takes you out of your family and your integrity and out of your life. And
it's a spectrum.
listen, I think we're starting to recognize how separated we are, how isolated we are. I do think there's a growing recognition for the need to share, so, if you're a person at that level, maybe it's just, I don't know, man, open it up to a friend, telling somebody that you trust, right? Something that you haven't told them, if we're specifically talking about substances and it's super bad for people, there are options available for people that make it financially feasible.
Yeah. I like to think you've got, like, if you want to make it happen, you can make it happen.
It's
and
there.
I understand. Yeah, it's there. There's work involved. I mean, but there's work involved to get the next fix. Like, I've seen some TikTok things, I think, where they're like, a crackhead going to smoke crack that day. Like, crackheads don't wake up and be like, oh, I just don't have any money, I'm not smoking crack today. They fucking get after it. They're going to get it done with that same thought process in mind. I'm going to get this fixed. No matter what, I'm going to get this fixed. You've got to attack it with that veracity, I think. And that's got to be understood. So thank you for saying that. Yeah, help is available. Like, if you want help, go looking on the internet for your location. How can I find help? And just, people are going to tell you no. Just ask somebody different. Like, till somebody says yes. And it's not cliche. Like, that's some true shit. Because there's so many people out there who do want to help, but there's people who take advantage of things and all that. So they got to do some vetting. So you've got to do some work to get to it. So, yes, an addiction, I hear, is on a spectrum. Alcohol took me away from my family for many years. That part of the addiction I accept. I have regret on that, and I try to have as little regret as possible. But getting that time back when the kids were little, that's one going to have to live with. And that's another thing, like change now. Like don't wait till tomorrow. Do some shit today. Like,
Man, yeah. Well, I mean, think about this, right? We are. Think about the changes that have occurred just even over the last 50 years, right?
mhm.
And what, as men, we are being, I would say, challenged. We're being challenged to do, challenged to be. We're being challenged to be emotionally available, emotionally attuned, emotionally intelligent, emotionally communicative, right?
Mhm.
Vulnerable, solid, and nobody gave us those playbooks, man. And so I think a lot of us, a lot of men are out there either checked out in video games or
Pacifying them with
porn,
something.
or I think it's a common, yeah, it's a common fatality.
Yeah, it's just it's a bunch of coping with
Yeah.
dealing with like you said. And so put your therapist hat on this one. Tell me, I feel like yes, we've all had circumstances or experiences that by definition would say we've been traumatized, but isn't trauma somewhat subjective in that it's a nervous system thing and it's what we can and can't handle? And part of knowing that you've been traumatized is acknowledging that you've been traumatized, right? Like you have to acknowledge it or you're not going to be able to grow from it or recover. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean,
Am I
yeah.
on
Well,
there?
I think you have to see it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
For
see a
what it
thing for
is.
what it is in order to make a change.
Because I mean, how many
Uh,
dudes? Going back to the 50-year comment, how many dudes don't want to accept that they've been traumatized because it's not macho or manly or what the fuck ever we
yeah.
say there?
Well, I think people again have a misunderstanding. So the guy that wrote, so Vander Kolk, the guy that wrote about the Body Keeps the Score,
Okay, the body keeps the
Body
score,
Keeps the
folks.
Score,
Yeah,
which is one of the seminal books
yeah.
on trauma and the way that the body responds to trauma. And so, your question is varied. I mean, it is subjective, but there are environmental factors and caregivers' response plays a role, and yeah, there are a lot of factors that go into play.
Hmm.
Yeah, resiliency is a mysterious thing.
Yeah, I think because so many guys would be like, man, I hadn't suffered trauma, and I can't really relate with that. I guess pre Joel, I mean, Joel is so
Yeah,
clearly traumatic. Like nobody's gonna
yeah,
um,
yeah.
wonder what kind of well, is he
That's
or
an
wasn't he trauma?
obvious
It's an obvious,
trauma.
right? But some guys out there, not just through trying to tough it, like
You could use a word that you could use a different word if it honestly if it makes people comfortable. The guy Besser Vanderkolk that wrote The Body Keeps the Score was a part of the group that came up with a diagnosis in the DSM for PTSD, right?
mhm.
And he even said in an interview, I don't remember when I saw it, man, within the last year, right? He said, "Oh yeah, our definition now is much broader than even over the last numerous years, you have this movement from PTSD to complex trauma, right? Uh,
That's is that
it's gained
defining the
it's
spectrum?
gained more nuance, and really, what you if you take the word trauma, meaning just wound, is what the word means,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And you understand that it's actually traumatic to an organism to have its needs frustrated, right?
Yeah.
That it's actually a traumatic experience for that organism, right? To be unable to interpret why the needs aren't being met, right?
That's the
Uh,
nervous system not being able to
yeah,
handle what's being
what's
introduced,
being
the
experienced, right?
experience,
Yeah, yeah.
the event or circumstances.
Yeah, so the definitions just expanded and expanded and expanded to include most everybody walking around on two legs. And yeah, most people have the idea that it's a singular event, and it is. That obviously, people have singular events that would fall under the category of acute stress disorder, post traumatic stress disorder.
So you're getting into that's really where we're getting into the depths of trauma. Not, I don't, when I say depths, I don't want to take away or one has more of an
Mm-hmm.
effect or not, but that's kind of what we've learned. We've learned so much more as a society that now we're up to speed that we can talk about acute, whatever. You just route off 3 or 4 words that went with it. But so to layman terms that up, the specific trauma versus a lasting something that happened over and over, something that happened when you were a child, something
Yeah,
like this type of
yeah,
shit.
yeah. A time frame thing. If a person, when we have a set of experiences that meet a certain criteria, and there's a certain set of experiences that happen after that
Mm-hmm.
experience, a human being generally has certain responses after the fact,
Right.
and it's been observed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the acute stress response, that's just if it's a 4 week period of time. Generally, what happens is the symptoms will, or what a person is experiencing will sort of fade away in
Mm-hmm.
some ways. And it becomes post traumatic stress when it moves beyond the 4 week period. But the symptoms are the same as acute stress. And chronic would be just sort of as indicated, it's repeated experiences
Trauma,
of trauma over
abuse
periods of
type
time.
things
Yeah, yeah,
that got abuse that continues to go on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And at the very end of the spectrum would be severe neglect and
Mm-hmm.
you know sexual abuse and
Yeah. Yeah, man. I just, the last episode I had a guy on, and he had a really rough childhood, man. And there's folks going through stuff out there that's really, really tough. And I'm hoping that we can get some help to you guys. I just, if it's not something that we can do to help you, if it's just somebody around you to get you some help, like don't continue to live in a certain way another day because we're only given I don't know, it's 85,000 seconds or something. It's 85,000 plus seconds a day. We can't save them. We can't store them. We've got to use them because they all go, once they're gone, they're gone. We can't get them back. And tomorrow, another 85,000 seconds start until we don't get any more seconds. And we don't know when that's going to be. So, trying to make changes sooner than later is, in my opinion, a big is big for people, and I'm hoping that when they hear this, it'll encourage or spur them to make some changes. So you go through a program, and did you find yourself more enlightened while in the program or after you got out and you were kind of I'm envisioning like when folks go to programs, usually it's kind of an escape from the real shit like they're dealing with. It's not like
mm,
being at the house and not calling your guy and getting your fix, right? It's like I'm somewhere where I don't even want that because they got good ass food and they got some fun shit for us to do. And if I want to go smoke a cigarette or whatever, I can. Then so when that time frame's up, like we could drop right back into the house with a phone and the dude's number, like it's all different. So when did the spiritual, or I don't know what to say spiritual, I won't put that on you, but when did the enlightening portion, you think, the depth come in?
yeah. You can use that word now, but I would say I'm not an individual that actually makes a distinction between non-spiritual and spiritual.
Gotcha.
So it just would all be
I'm kind of
spiritual
new,
in nature.
yeah, and I'm kind of new to fucking with
I
it, so
got
I
it,
want to
man.
be.
That's just where I'm at. That's
Yeah, I think I can agree with
so
that.
I've had many spiritual experiences or mystical experiences through a variety of methods
Mm-hmm.
throughout my life, man. So, man, the whole thing is a mystery. How one person their life can be totally destroyed and have an opportunity at restoration and health, and it not happen. In another person it does. It's a
Mm-hmm.
mystery, man. But um, I don't know is the honest answer. I was tired, and my life matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, man. Support. right place, right time,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you had to dig out though, and you're saying now that it's, in reflection, at that time you weren't as deep with it
When
as.
I was, now again, I've been in recovery since 2019, right? Uh, I've been a therapist for 16 years.
Mm.
And again, my story's brutal, man. And so uh, when I went, I didn't know what was happening with my career. I literally was walking into that space with no idea
Mm-hmm.
of what was going to happen, where it was going, and what was going to happen in my life.
Just that you were sick and tired of the way you
Yeah,
were living.
I could not live the way I was living.
Yeah, yeah, that's a guy. You talk about kind of just grabbing your nuts and jumping, like, and that's what it takes in an extreme scenario, like you found yourself in. I mean, you kind of had done that to get to where you were. Like you had gotten to a place of, just fuck it, and I'm going to go as deep in. I'm going all in here, and then you got to kind of go all in to come out, and that's another thing. It's a commitment, and it's a journey, but it's so rewarding and fulfilling, and it's hard to like verbalize. I have a hard time explaining myself to people. Like when you meet me, you catch positive vibes from me, and you see that I'm in a great mood, and I'm wanting, nothing but the best for you and what's going on with you. That's kind of hard to verbalize for me. So while it's all hard work and it takes commitment and it takes, saying I'm not going to do that even when that's the only thing you really want to do. But it is rewarding, and the rewards are, I think, what you're talking about. Like, everything is spiritual, and everything is kind of part of the solution. And, and I agree, because it's how you act to the person on the street and to the nature and the environment around you. And it's how you treat yourself, and it's being thankful and showing gratitude. It is all those things, and I agree. Sometimes I got to come up to the top a little bit, and I want to share with people who are kind of, they're not even hearing that. They're just like stuck. I'm saying, there where you were when you were sick and tired of being sick and tired, and so work. Making the commitment, just plunging. I could lose my job, my entire fucking career, everything that I've worked for up to this point, but I gotta save my life first. And if that means I can't do that, then and so you did. You're still a therapist, so you made it. You made it.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I was. It was all grace, man.
Yeah, which I would think in that community you'd have some grace, right? Like, who, if anybody's going to
And I
understand, it's a
did.
group of therapists, right?
And I did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty beautiful, really.
That's great. That's awesome to hear. I don't. It's not. I don't think you always hear positive.
You said so. Yeah, this is. I think I meant to say this earlier, but so I know sometimes my thoughts will wander off in a few different directions. But the essence of the process of recovery, the way I would describe it, right, is essentially that. Listen, you listen, child. You're talking to a human being,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm sorry, but the world will not do it the way that you think it will. No relationship, no house, no anything. It will not do it the way you think it will, right? And the essence of recovery, I would say, is a lesser reliance on, I would say, the world,
And more
in a way.
reliance on,
In a way.
and more reliance on self.
I would say there's a lot of different words. I get more reliance on truth or goodness, beauty, God, higher power, source.
Gratitude.
There's a lot of different words that you use for it. But gratitude sort of emerges. I consider gratitude. So it's perceptual in nature. It's seeing what is actually abundant in our life. It's like a perceptual thing. We actually see it, and you can practice it.
Yeah.
By actively looking for it, But part of what happens, even just within the process of the process of the program of recovery that I have participated in and continue to participate in, gratitude is a ever deepening and emerging quality within the process of it.
In that it continues to grow.
Yeah, and deepen. There were moments and had that where I could just be driving down the road and I'm just in tears at how and just really honestly at life.
How thankful you are for the grace you've been given. Yeah. I agree. I've been shown a lot of grace. Sometimes I haven't been, and it's been some hard lessons I've had to learn where I wasn't given grace, where in the moment I was hoping or wishing or hoped I had, but I wouldn't be where I am doing what I'm doing if I hadn't. So I'm glad I didn't get it, and I'm glad I did get all the grace that I did get. I agree. So that touch going into the gratitude touches on the perspective piece, and in its simplest form, it's seeing life with a glass half full instead of half empty. And I know on its face, it's like, well, that's stupid, man. You're just going to say glass half full. But literally, if you stop and say, I'm having a negative emotion, why am I having this negative emotion? Because circumstance or event Y, X, Y, and Z is occurring. Well, what can I take away from this that can be positive? What can be a glass half full in this scenario? And we can be grateful for that. So to take the extreme with Joel, I look back on that and all I've learned, and okay, if I could change the past, yes, we wouldn't lose him, right, in an accident. But since I can't change the past, then I look at it as all I've been able to learn and experience after him passing, and as a result of him passing. Had he have not passed, I would not have gone through and experienced and learned all that I have. And so, but for that, I wouldn't know what I know today. And I know so much fucking more than I did that day he died. And I'm so much better of a human being by my definition. Others be damned. Like I know what I want a human to look like. And that's what I'm trying to be: kinder, understanding.
What's happening is, I would say that your heart is opening more and more and more. Okay. And then you have this more orientation towards service and being of service to others.
Yeah, and it comes from being grateful. Like I said, I'm so grateful for kindness.
It's like the little sweetness of pain.
Yeah, it's a lot of pain to a little sweet. Yeah, no, I get it. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like I'm trying to let others know, like, I'm not just talking about a glass half full when it's raining outside and so you're gonna get wet. I'm talking about when fucking shit is serious. Yeah. Kid has passed away. How can that possibly be positive, Aaron?
I know, man.
My response is because I can turn it around into this. That's why. Yeah. And others can be helped. And it sucks that it happened. If I could change it, I would, but I can't. So I'm going to look at it with a positive perspective. And as that grows, and it'll grow, like you're talking about, that gratitude shit will grow, and you begin to see and experience things that you weren't experiencing before because you were looking at it as a glass. You were looking under the water because you were glass half empty. Yeah. And so you couldn't even see what was happening above that. And I've seen that to be so rewarding. Like the perspective piece has been so rewarding.
Well, as human beings, we have the capacity to transcend. We have the capacity to transcend the certain qualities of our engineering, right? So we have a part of our system, and people, you'll find people talking about it if they're referring to like evolutionary systems, mm-hmm. and things like that, how there's a part of our system that's kind of consistently looking out for danger and keeping us safe, mm-hmm. right? And there's another part is that confirmation bias, like essentially that we have a part of our system that is looking to confirm beliefs that we have, mm-hmm. out in the world, right? Mm-hmm. It goes and looks for it goes beyond just looking to confirm the belief. It actually excludes anything that would challenge the belief, right? But if you know that, you can actively work with that process to transcend, right?
Past that.
Yes, to transcend past it. And so I think we can be sort of oriented towards negative, is a really simple way to say what the hell I just said. We can be really oriented towards negative,
Instinctively speaking.
In some ways, man. But and we can learn how to reorganize that tendency
through working some tools and processes, right?
Yeah. You hear people do gratitude lists and things like that. It may sound kind of hokey, but it's actually playing with that perceptual tendency. It's waking up and starting to flex a muscle in a different direction. And it doesn't matter. You have hot water. I'm not minimizing any quality or element of the human struggle. I'm not.
No, I don't think so. Offering we're talking about solutions and processes to help straighten this shit out.
Yeah, so you can find things to be grateful for. I would imagine if one was to really look, hot water, is generally one. And
yeah, it's taken 11 and a half years for me to say that perspective piece about Joel. Like, that was not some out of the box thing. I was thankful that he had passed.
It's a long road.
It was a long road to get to that. But that I just use it as an example to show that you can get to a point to be grateful for even the worst imaginable things.
Yeah, there's a
and it overcomes. And I'm sorry to cut you off. There's a thing.
Good.
I've done a reel on that negative piece, that instinctual negative piece, and so it's the gratitude that helps. That's the working out of that muscle.
I think you could consider it to be like a antidotal, just one tool.
Sure. Right? It's not going to fix it. You can't say I'm grateful today and everything's gone.
Yeah.
But it's chipping away at that.
Done over time. It's like anything.
Yeah.
Done consistently over time, and you would be bound to notice differences. And it's like anything. You don't have to. You just go try it and see what happens. Right? Just check it out.
What you're doing,
check it out.
Yeah, that's something I talk about repeatedly. Is what you're doing right now clearly isn't working. So you've got to try something different, and so you try something like this. But it's not. To your point, though, you got to try for a long time. You can't just try it for a week and be like, "Well, man, I showed gratitude this week, and I still felt like shit." Well, yeah, okay, you're right. You did. But there's a lot more tools, A, and processes, B, that have to be added on top of that. That's just an ingredient in the pie or the cake. But I appreciate you putting something to that as far as what it's an antidote for, because I'm big on, I know gratitude is crucial to success in our recovery, and as well as perspective. And those, A, being hand in hand, and B, what they're antidotal to, our instinctive, not desire, but covering our ass, if you will, instinctively has us looking at all the negative things around us. Mm-hmm. So to get the ship turned around, looking at something positive, do that. I really appreciate that. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, I think it can be helpful, man.
Yeah, it is. I think it's crucial in what we're trying to do. So on do you spend, like, when I know everything is spirit, like you're gotten to a depth in your spirituality where everything is part of that. And I think that I'm growing into that as well. But do you have some specific tools or processes you use on that? Like, I spend time in nature. My girlfriend and I will get out in nature and spend time hiking, life cycle, stuff like that, creation. Is that are you in the same boat, or you got some other tools you use?
Oh, man, yeah, I got into meditation pretty seriously 2-3 years ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of the primary tool for me. But I guess you could lump things like prayer and reflection and and contemplation and stuff in there. But meditation is something I got into really seriously little over 3 years ago.
Right on.
Yeah.
And that's something you practice every day, or?
Yeah, I would say the last few months, not so much, but yeah, for a few year period of time, it
Leading
was
up,
every morning, 30, 45 minutes in the morning.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, I really got into it. I mean, when I came, I've had a spiritual, otherworldly, deeper questions. Who am I? What are we doing here? What is this? Orientation since I was about 18 or 19, really. And actually, those kind of emerged out of significant traumas in my life, those deeper questions. And then they kind of lay dormant in some ways. And then
In that you didn't know
I,
really that you were suffering from them much.
I didn't, meaning I didn't really explore the deeper questions.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I didn't really look inwardly, right?
Mm-hmm.
With reflection and contemplation and meditative uh, practice. But I had deeper questions at 18 or 19. And then that all kind of emerged when I went to treatment. It just really, it flooded back in for me. And so I've tried a lot of different things, man. Yeah, a lot of different kinds of meditation. And even in the Western world and sort of the Catholic world, there's a thing called centering prayer that's super popular. It's kind of a Western meditation, but meditation has been a key. I think if you're a person and you really get into if you really get into it, and you start doing it regularly, and then you kind of push it and extend the time a little bit. I think a lot of people you start to kind of proselytize just because of the benefits. You kind of want to stand up on the side of the cliff and go, "Hey, they should have been telling us this when
Right.
we were 5. What I have,
All these
this
tools.
is crazy." Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Oh, of course, yeah.
All these tools, I feel like, why
in
is
in our skills class,
yeah,
right?
right? Like, why weren't they teaching
This is
this
emotional
shit?
regulation.
Right. Because I've been a hot mess on all
I won't
this.
spend as much money if I. Well, never mind.
Yeah, I've been a mess my entire life because I had zero. I didn't even consider looking at these things. Didn't even consider it.
Yeah.
And then I was agnostic, and so I didn't. I couldn't or wouldn't. I don't know. Whatever, confirmation bias again. Even consider something being spiritual in nature because I wanted to ignore the subject. I don't want to get, I don't want to get wrapped around the axles on something I can't control and who created us and how we got here and what book and all this stuff and all. I don't have time for that. I'm trying to get centered in my life and what I can control. So I really avoided that. So I'm just now getting into that portion of it and being willing to accept it. And um, I do meditate. I do priming in the morning, and I do breath work. I do nature work, and I try to, express that to people, like how important it is for us to have the humility that goes with the spiritual piece, and understand that there's so much more than just us. The more I do daydream a little and kind of float into that world, how perfectly aligned everything is. If gravity was off just a hair, we'd be crushed or we'd float off. The way that our bodies work is like crazy, dude. It is insane. The more you learn about a body, how at the cellular level it does things that we don't understand yet as a species. We have an understanding, but we don't understand all what's going on. We don't have a clue. We're just still throwing things at it. And so there's a lot of things that are pretty perfectly lined up that I even myself I'm like, golly, it's pretty perfect. But yeah, man. So the spiritual piece is huge. Well, we've touched on the three biggies. Growing mentally, growing physically. You've been working out the whole time. I know Jason and I
Not
go
over the
back.
last few months, man. It's weird when I sort of hibernated in the winter, and then
Okay.
it's starting to come back online. I can kind of feel it working in my bones again,
Okay.
But for 2 years prior, pretty consistently, yeah. It's been a part of my practice over the last 4 or 5 years and my life throughout, really.
Yeah, I know
Off and
when
on.
we were Jason and I go back again 30 years or so, and um, I know you were athletic when we were younger, and you focused.
Yeah, but I did lose it. When I went to treatment in 2019, I was 50 pounds lighter than I am right now.
Wow,
Yeah,
you're in pretty bad shape.
I was in pretty bad shape.
That's tough.
Yeah. When I started exercising, so I went for 30 days and then I went for another 30 days to what they call extended care.
Okay.
You kind of go from the on campus part to a house off of campus where you stay, make your own food, and then you go back to the campus to take classes.
Kind of like a outpatient mixed with
Yeah.
halfway house.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And when I was there and I started to exercise again, I started by doing like 10 push ups a day.
I love it.
That's what I did. That's where I started.
I love it.
Right.
I started walking.
Yeah.
It sounds Forrest Gumpish, but I started walking.
That's what I did, brother. And then cut to a year later, I was running a mile and working out in the gym.
Yeah. And that was part of your routine. And I had another guest on, and somebody Rob. I had him on, and he was kind of out of his routine in the moment. And guys, when we build a foundation, when we build a solid foundation, we can deviate from the routine for small amounts of time without suffering setbacks. But in Rob's scenario, Jason, Rob had just made a big move because of his company. Mm-hmm. And, we were discussing the juggle that us men have to provide fiscally. So the money portion, which could cause a move like Rob was experiencing. Yeah. But then you got the emotional part where you've got to provide for your family. And so he's having to be he's really need to be in there for his youngest child and his wife to assist her with what they were dealing with. And kind of the struggle that goes with that and how we get kind of put in last place in that. And that's okay in the moment. But as a rule and as a lifestyle, that is not okay. It is not something that will lead to success. The more we neglect ourselves, the more things will go backwards, and then we will begin to see setbacks. Isn't that how you see things as well? Like you've got a good foundation so you can steer, but you need to come back.
Yeah, I even kind of get the sense of that in some ways. Yeah, I think as men, we have to be oriented towards a purpose. It's a necessary component, I think, especially for the masculine. And so, but man, I'm grateful because I've been graced to have a career find me. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So even if I'm in this less than a year old relationship, and a lot of the energy's been around being there, integrating with her 5-year-old, my partner's 5-year-old. Mm-hmm. And so there's been less of an energy in the direction of, say, my career or this. Right?
Personal growth.
Yeah. That's the personal growth thing, though, is an always ever present part of my experience as a human being. It's not,
because you've ingrained it to be that way.
Yeah, it's just a part of my experience. Whatever occurs, I'm curious about it within myself. And I assume responsibility for whatever happens inside of me, right? So it's interesting. So even though I've been able to kind of really put a lot of energy in the direction of this new relationship and changing the land and planting things, and I still have that rooted foundation of purpose in sort of the calling and it finding me, which I'm really grateful for. But I am feeling a sense of moving back in towards something specifically for myself and my career and stuff.
Yeah, and now she's just part of it, and she, excuse me, she's just going to be. You'll integrate all that in, and it'll be, and so Jason's solid foundation allows him to kind of veer from that to put more attention in this instance on a partner and the growth of that relationship. But again, he has so finely ingrained that
during this
you're still growing personally.
Every second. Yeah. It has been the most challenging experience of my entire life. I mean, everything I've ever learned prior to has made it possible for me to even navigate and be in the situation that I'm in and have the capacity to be in the situation that I'm in. Yeah. And so even being there with them and the newness of being with a 5-year-old, and man, it has challenged me in ways that nothing else in life even comes close to.
Yeah.
And so there's been more spiritual growth in this process, right? Even though it's like I'm less time at the gym, or this is more time in choosing to let something go, right? To choose somebody else's feelings and desires over my own.
Yep.
To choose inclusion with an X over exclusion, right?
No, I love that.
Yeah, to choose boundaries and communicating over staying silent and becoming resentful. Yeah,
no,
so
that's
constant work.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But to I think those who are looking up at the hill instead of kind of have already getting a good go on it, where Jason finds himself and I find myself growing every day, I will have setbacks where I don't make the right decision, or I do something I shouldn't have done, or regret, or whatever. We're still going to fuck up. So I still fuck up, and I try to fuck up less. But yeah, so I'm trying to do that less these days. And when I do it, I try to have it to where it's so small that the repercussions last minutes instead of years.
Yeah. And if you do, you just take responsibility and accountability for it and say you're sorry and make changes accordingly.
Yeah. Own it, learn it, change so it doesn't happen again, and move forward. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's no growth. It's a process, right? There's no perfection. It's a process. Yeah. I've just somehow along the way I developed, or I would say the capacity kind of sort of came online inside of me that just allows me to be curious about all the things that come up. You know what I mean? And so even if I make a quote unquote mistake, it's not, I mean, it is, but it's also just information.
Yeah, you got to learn. You definitely, it's clear that something is being learned. And that's again, perspective. We can say, well, I wouldn't do that again. Okay, well, roger that. What? So I'm learning something right away. I'm learning something. If I know I wouldn't do it again, then I've learned something. So, I encourage folks to look at that. And I just know it's got to be tough. Folks who are where we are get it. And they're like, yes, every day I'm fucking working. Every day when I get up, it's another day. I'm going to learn something today. I'm going to figure something new out today. I may put like the period on a sentence or a paragraph today that really brings things together for me, because it is constant work. But I don't want it to seem more overwhelming for those of you just starting out. Like, it becomes easier and it becomes more enjoyable. And like you're saying, you want to know why, and you want to dig deeper and figure out, So it's like at the beginning, that didn't
come online immediately.
Yeah, it doesn't come online immediately. It's a slog to get to certain points, but then you get these big rewards, and it's like more fuel for the ride and for the journey, and it is totally a process. So, folks, don't get overwhelmed. You're going to build a routine that just allows you to think about that day and just complete the task for that day. And like we're talking about, whether it's working out, meditating, things of this nature. So, well, Jay, I think we're going to wrap it up, dog. I sure appreciate your time. Yeah, probably going to get you back in here and talk some more, because we can go on and on. May have you help me interview some people, because you can put a different spin on it. So appreciate you having you today.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Y'all have a great day out there, and thanks for listening. Give me a follow on Instagram at ITU Thrive. You can check my website out, ituthrive.com. That's the letter I, the number 2, the letter U, THRIVE.com. If you need immediate help, you need to Google up suicide hotline. But if you need long-term help, something like that, look us up, and let's see if we can't talk about it. Thanks so much for listening.